Welcome to the Rural Revival Podcast. I'm your host, Dana Larson. On this episode, we're with Michael and Sara Floyd. Together, Michael and Sara shared a dream of owning a historic farmhouse in the country as a creative space for their art and design studio, of bringing that dream to life. From what brought them to Kansas to Sara's tips and tricks for finding historic properties and creative ways. This is a journey that celebrates the humble farmer from centuries past and highlights the importance of preserving these places for the generations to come. And farm have become more than just a project for their family. Bryarton Farm in Kansas, and that includes their newly adopted daughter, Ellie. This is a story that I know you're going to love. So here we go with Michael and Sara Floyd. Okay, well, we're here with Michael and Sara Floyd of Bryarton Farm in rural Kansas. Thank you guys so much for being on the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having us. We're honored.
I'm so glad you're here. You guys have been on my bucket list for a while. So tell us about you. Are you both originally from Kansas?
No.
No.
I'm from Oklahoma, and Michael's from Georgia, so we lived near his family for the first couple of years of our marriage, and then we wanted to kind of give it back to my part of the country once we started having kids, and a lot of that was because land is super expensive up in Georgia, and there's just so many trees, you can't see the sunset, and there's just so many people. It's like very populated, and I was just missing the open prairies. And so we just looked for a place near my folks, and this is kind of where we ended up. They're on the border of Oklahoma. So we're pretty close to them.
Like a weekend trip.
Yeah, which
Perfect.
works out great. We're still really independent, and we've had to rely on ourselves for everything. It forced us to do all of this by ourselves, but at the same time, on a weekend, they can come and visit, and it makes it really special. And they're not too far away, a couple hours. So that worked out.
Yeah.
People laugh at us because we just wanted to, like, our goal was to find a historic farm, and we had a really small budget. So we kind of drew a circle, like a 4-hour radius around my parents, and said, we would like to live in this area. And we told a realtor, like, can you help us find a historic farm in that area in a 4-hour radius? And he was like, I don't do 4-hour radiuses. It's kind of a weird request. So I ended up finding this place on Zillow myself, as well as a couple other farms, and this is the one we ended up with. And wasn't it like $100,000? I forget now. We've been here 8 years, so we paid $100,000 for this little farm.
Yeah,
And
we had kind of a crazy situation because when we were in Georgia, we bought our first house right after the crash in 2010, and so the market was really low, and I had a super low paying job. And so we were scraping by just to get any sort of a house, have enough money to have any sort of a house. But we managed to get a loan on this beautiful home in a suburb of Atlanta. And it was this home built in a little after 1900. It was a Victorian cottage with a huge southern front porch on it. You know, it had the 12-foot ceilings, had the original floors, Victorian moldings, and it had some nice updates to it as well. And so
it was a foreclosure, so, we were like newlyweds who were eating noodles pretty much for every meal, and we had like no money, and we had a little dog, and that's it. And we were taking her for a walk, and we found this foreclosed. I'm like, just see how much it is.
Yeah, she was looking in the window, and she was like, wow, it's got crown molding, and it's beautiful.
Stained glass windows.
And, it's got granite countertops and all this stuff. And I'm like, we can't afford this. We don't have any money. But they had this little thing on the front where you just like text the number and it came back and it was like $74,900. And I was like, what? Like,
Wow.
So we
shouldn't there be a
jumped on
one at
that.
the beginning of that?
We jumped on that, and that was kind of. I think a lot of people think when you buy a historic house, you need to already be rich. But a lot of these, old houses, even though it was a foreclosure, a lot of these old houses, people just don't appreciate old.
Right.
For some reason, they want new, and they don't understand that old houses just come with hardwood floors in every room. They just come with it,
Yeah.
They come with fireplaces and beautiful tile and these things that you would pay a fortune for now, but these old houses, they might have a few raccoons in them.
Right.
And you have to, fix them up a little bit, but buying an old house, it comes with kind of the story and soul that can only be created over 100 years or more. You can't manufacture that. And we were so excited to get this old house. The only problem with it was in the middle of the city, and we were both country kids. He grew up on,
Yeah, I grew up on 6 acres.
and I grew up on
in
10
Georgia.
acre, and I grew up on 10 acres, and we were just like, there's neighbors.
Right.
What do we do? There's So that was interesting, and we were also on a busy street, so we loved our house so much. But it was just too crazy. There was actually somebody a girl on a motorcycle got hit by a truck, and her body landed in our front yard. And I think that was one of the things that made me realize, raising children here, in this yard, I don't know.
Yeah.
That was so terrifying.
Wow.
So, I think she survived. We don't actually know for sure what happened to her. That was really scary.
Yeah.
So then we started looking for farms. And because I had decorated the living daylights out of that house, we were able to sell it for like double what we bought it for.
Yeah, the market really came back in full force about 5 years after that. And the whole time we had been just doing all kinds of little projects, painting. I don't know how many gallons of paint we went through. But we painted the inside and the outside, just did a lot
By
of
hand,
things.
yeah.
A lot of things as well to just, touch it up and make it look nice. And things like that. And we ended up selling it for $200,000,
Wow.
which was insane. So we went to the closing table and sold that house, and then had a U-Haul in our car, caravanned from Georgia to Kansas, and the next day sat down at the closing table and paid cash for our house that we have now.
Amazing.
Right around the time I was turning 30, and so I'm like, wow, we got this like house thing figured out. We're right where we want to be.
Little
We're
did
gonna
we
jump
know.
in. We're just gonna do all the same kind of stuff we did in the last house, and it's
Just
gonna
need
be
some
perfect.
paint. Yeah.
It's gonna be great. And it didn't exactly turn out that way. We've been here for
It'll be 8 years in May.
going on 8 years, and we still have an entire 2-room part of our house that basically hasn't been touched. I mean, it's been touched, but it's only been demoed. It hasn't had anything put back into it and become a living space again. So
I think the question was, how did you end up in Kansas, though? How did we?
yeah, we're not real good at like sticking to the question.
No,
so
that's
we might
okay.
have to-
You're good. This is all so good. So yeah, did you end up finding it online?
Yeah, we found it online. I learned the way to get a historic farm online is to utilize Zillow's search bar in a unique way. So if you go to Zillow, they have a little drop down, and you can put in the year of the house, the square footage of the house you're looking for, how many acres you're looking for. And, a lot of people don't understand that if you're wanting a historic farm, you can't put that you want 2 bathrooms.
Sure. Yeah.
So one trick I learned is that, you can always add a bathroom, but when you're searching, don't put in what you are envisioning like down the road. Put what would have been kind of available in the time period of the house you're looking for. So like in the 1800s and early 1900s, they would have only put 1 bathroom eventually into their house. And if a old farmhouse has more than 2 bathrooms, it's already probably been renovated and all of the charm is possibly gone. So kind of go back to the basics, put in the year. I put in 1700s. There's nothing in Kansas that's 1700s, but I put 1700s to 1945. I wasn't interested in looking at anything younger than 1945. Because, after the war, they stopped really building the houses in that really rich way. I think all of their resources probably were used up from the war. There was a baby boom. There was all these things that happened that made them build houses in a different way, and they really have never looked back.
Right.
So I just use that Zillow drop-down box, and I really get specific, and it narrows it down. But you have to be like me and make that 4-hour radius. You have to be willing to live. Some of my friends are like, "How far do you live from Starbucks?" I'm like, "I don't know. I don't go to Starbucks." Like, you have to kind of let go of a lot of those maybe comfort things that you're used to, being in hop in the car and go to Target. I'm not one of those girls anymore. I don't know if I ever was, but you're looking for very rural. You're looking for, we were able to find this place because we really lowered our expectations for square footage and bathrooms and things that most people are willing to pay a lot of money for. And that also will get you a less expensive house too.
Yeah.
So there's some tricks that people can use if they're wanting an authentic farmhouse, not like one of those trendy new farmhouses, but like a real old farmhouse with all of the character probably still at least mostly intact. Is put maybe more like 1,500, 1,600 square foot, 1 bathroom. Put maybe a few acres. Maybe you could put barn on there, but some of those barns have probably been torn down. We were so fortunate to still have one of our barns. And then make sure you do the year. And that's how I found it. And I actually found a handful, but this is the one that we were able to get. They do go kind of fast. And since COVID, I've noticed people are wanting to go back to what their grandparents would have done.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of craving that simple life again, and they are harder to get, I've noticed. So we really got in there at a good time too, as well, in 2014. So
Yeah, people in the country tend to not move as much as people in the city.
that's true.
So, yeah, there's generally just fewer houses at a time. So you're probably going to have to be a lot more patient.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
That's a good point.
Yeah. So when you found it, were you kind of like, okay, now we need to find a job? Or did
Yeah.
you just, yep, okay.
yeah, I already.
We did house first, then job.
Yeah,
Wow.
I already had an interview lined up, just for a simple like warehouse job. So it wasn't really unlikely that I wasn't going to get it. But yeah, I didn't technically have a job when we paid,
Well, because
when we bought the house. Yeah.
we
But
decided our careers, a fancy career was not what we wanted out of life. We really wanted, our priorities were, yeah, I mean, we need to pay the bills. But we wanted to have a lot of time to focus on family time, and we wanted to raise our girls in the country like we were raised. We wanted
Yep.
to homeschool them like we were homeschooled.
Hmm.
And so it was like, okay, let's find our top priority is our house. We'll find the house first, and then we'll find the job. And he'll just do whatever job we can find.
Yeah.
And since warehouse jobs are everywhere, that was a simple solution. And he actually has hours that are indicative or like helpful to our lifestyle as well.
Yeah, I'm off in the
So,
mornings, so we do things together as a family in the mornings, and then I work in
but
the
that's
afternoons.
not what usually people do. Usually they find the job and then they try to find the house. Well, then you're probably going to you're going to have to maybe sacrifice and end up with a house that you don't love as much. So you have to kind of think through that. What is more important to you? Is it a career? Is it getting that boat or whatever, that what is that thing that you're striving for? And for us it was just to get a little piece of country and a place to raise our kids that wasn't going to have somebody on a motorcycle in the front yard.
Definitely. No, I love
Yeah.
that so much. So help us understand what condition the farm was in when you got there and kind of where you started.
Oh man.
So, I mean, there's good and bad to farms being in different situations because it could have been, that we moved in and everything had been renovated and they had fixed kind of underlining practical problems, but they had taken out all the charm. But that's not at all what we came into. We came into the opposite. There were practical things that had been not addressed for a long time, but there was so much of the original material still here.
It was very untouched.
Yeah.
Which is what made us choose this house. So it still had all the original windows, which was very important to us, and all the original moldings and details, wood details, but it was all covered in plastic, like they had put in a plastic case all over everything. So we weren't really sure of the state of the house. We just thought, well, we'll peel it back and we'll do what we did to the last house. We'll just paint everything and we'll fix it up. It's probably just cosmetic. And it did pass an inspection, but because the crawl space is
Almost most of the house has about a 1 foot space between the floorboard, between the joist and the dirt below it,
Wow.
which is almost impossible to get into.
Yes.
so the inspector wouldn't
Yeah,
go
so
under
your
there.
inspector's not going under there to look at things.
And because there was vinyl all over the outside.
Yeah, there was vinyl all over the outside. There were aluminum storm windows over the original windows. They had put down kind of indoor-outdoor carpet that they just kind of threw over the top of the original wood floors on the inside. Most of the house still had the original plaster. In many places, it had been wallpapered over several times, and that was the only reason it wasn't coming off the walls. But so many of the things were still there. A lot of the doors were still there. But the thing that we found out was that the vinyl and the way that they had just put it over the top of the wood, and then the way that they had put those storm windows over, and the way that they had done caulked around it and things, and as well as putting in window units, window AC units. All these things kind of worked together to let water just soak the windowsills, and then that just went down to the base of the house and rotted out, the mud sill and the rim joists and the floor joists. There was just damage all over. And that wasn't the only place where there was damage. It was the corners as well.
Every corner of the house.
Yeah, so instead of, going in and doing the structural repairs They just put vinyl over the top of it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't in a way that would allow it to, like all the seams just kind of let the water, go in. And so there was a lot of rot around where the seams on the vinyl were. So all of that really led to a lot of issues. And the room that we're working on now was the room where they put the original plumbing. And so that room was also on the south side of the house. It had had roof leaks over time. So you had all kinds of, you had the kitchen and the bathroom right next to each other. So you had all this stuff, all this moisture in that one little area that just combined to get a lot of water issues over there.
Yeah. So we lived here for a year, and we were, slowly doing our cosmetic things. We were so excited. Wow, we have our house paid off. We're on budget. We have all this money saved, and we're gonna redo pretty much the only modern and inappropriate looking thing was the kitchen and the bathroom. So that's where our leftover money was gonna go. And we lived here for a year, and at that point we had a newborn and a 3-year-old. And we noticed that under one of the windows in the living room that the wall was kind of squishy and moving.
Oh,
I'm like,
man.
that doesn't, the plaster was just like moving when you touched it. And then when we pulled up the carpet, there was a giant hole in the floor in that same area. And they had just duct tape over the hole in the floor and then put the carpet over the duct tape. I'm like, well, I wonder if that's an animal hole. And we just it wasn't connecting. And then one day we went outside and we peeled up the vinyl and we just noticed that the whole entire house was not sitting on anything. Like we had the stone foundation, but what connects your wooden house to a stone foundation is your sill plate and all those bottom wood pieces, like he mentioned, the joists, the sill plate, the floor studding, and all those bottom pieces. So like 3 feet up all the way around our house had been soaked with water. Then the plastic was not allowing that to dry. And, when you have this moist, mushy wood, termites come in and they ate everything away. And we had been living here in rural Kansas where, the wind is so strong. It's like Tornado Alley. It was a miracle that we were alive. It was kind of crazy that our house could have fallen over and killed us. It was not safe.
I remember seeing that on Instagram when you guys were starting with the siding, and it was hard to wrap your head around, really. Like, wow.
This is why we're very adamant. We try to tell everybody, do not, if you have a wooden house with wood siding, do not put vinyl over it. That's marketed to people, especially elderly people who are tired of painting their house, and the upkeep, it's marketed to them as a maintenance-free product, but it's anything but maintenance-free. I mean, it gets brittle after many years from the sun, and it can break very easily. Water can get in, like a good storm, like a good hard storm, water will get in between your layers, and after that there's nowhere for it to go.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what happened over several decades. And so there went all of our kitchen money, there went all of our bathroom money. And now we don't have a paid for house because we ended up having to get, what is it called, like a construction loan?
It's a home equity line of credit.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we're like everybody else, but
right.
Yeah,
at least
it's about financially, it's about what we were in the last house, but we've been able to address a lot more things.
Yeah.
I don't know. We owe about the same amount that we did when we moved.
Wow.
But the thing is that now we're where we want to be, and we're not buying this house, to fix it up and sell it. It's about making it what we want.
Mm-hmm.
making the life,
Yeah, because you've kind of planted yourselves here now
Yes.
for the long term, which is
Yes,
really
we
great.
hope. Yeah.
Michael, well, both of you, I mean, I know you both have worked on it, but was this stuff that you had a background in, or was it kind of learn as you go?
It was very much learn as you go. Yeah, at our last house, I went from absolutely nothing to just barely cracking the surface. I think we were nailing stuff to the walls, or nailing up pictures and painting up high, and I'm trying to remember anything really complicated we got there.
Yeah.
What did we get? Was there anything more
We
complicated
did
at our first
some
house?
little repairs, but yeah,
We did some things, but we had no money for like tools, and I didn't know what I was doing, so we were just trying to make it look pretty. And then we came here, and all of these things, a lot of these things were stuff that I had never even thought about. And so I had books that I bought or got from the library. There was YouTube. We just looked at blogs, and a lot of it was just, you talk to a contractor, they come out, they look at it, and you kind of assess it, and they kind of point, well, you need to look at this and this and this, and you just learn. It's just something you learn over time. But I was not like some sort of professional
I wouldn't have even
restorationist. I mean, I'm
I
still
wouldn't have
not.
even
But
called you handy when I married you. I wouldn't
no,
have. No, you
no.
hanging up pictures was like the most of what you did. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was very bookish, not super hands-on. We're both very artistic,
Yeah.
but not. I wasn't like into woodworking or anything like that. All of that just came over time.
Yeah. So that should encourage your listeners. Like, you don't have to be a professional of anything. You just have to have that willingness to learn, to get your hands dirty, to have a good work ethic, and like this hunger for knowledge. And also, like, we got to this place where if we didn't fix something, we could be in the hospital. So that kind of motivates you, to fix
true.
things. And when you get contractors out and they're telling you these quotes that are astronomical, that motivates you as well to, well, let me see if I can figure out how to fix this myself. And we couldn't do a lot of the major structural things. Like, we don't do any major electrical or plumbing, and that structural stuff that we found, the reason it took all of our budget is because we had to hire somebody to come in there. They didn't really jack up the house.
Yeah, they did a little bit at a time. It was kind of
It was a cool technique.
yeah. It wasn't like the house was like standing up,
Yeah.
like you see sometimes where it's like, multiple
Way up.
inches off the ground or anything.
Yeah.
It was just a little bit at a time. He would remove a piece and then put some in. Yeah, so I mean, on this, so that was the 2-story section of the house. We're working right now on the 1-story, and so I have actually been trying to fix a lot of those things myself because there's so little weight on the wall in that section that I don't really have to be as worried about it collapsing the way that I would the other side of the house. So sometimes we can get into those things if it doesn't, I just have to assess it. And
Yeah.
you just kind of learn over time, grow, use what your last experience was, and, go on from there. Just try not to get too overconfident,
Yeah.
I just generally draw the line at, am I going to die or is the house going to fall over? And if either of those things is likely, then,
Hire it
we're going to
out.
pay for it. We're
Yeah.
going to hire it out. Or
That's good
the other
advice.
thing is, are we going to cover it with walls and stuff and then try to use it and then realize, oh, I messed something up,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. That's
But other
good.
than that, almost everything that you can see, like finished surfaces,
We've
we've
touched.
done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So even when they did the structural on the 2-story part of the house, we took up the flooring that was here, carefully stored it, And when they were done repairing everything, we took those same boards and put them down. So the wood in this section on the floor is the same, material that's been in this space for 100 and what is it?
29 years.
129 years now.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's just I would say that there's just so much material out there for anybody who is interested in learning anything anymore. It's just a matter of taking the time. A lot of times it takes a while to find it. And a lot of times you have to take that information and then kind of run it through what's in front of you. Because, you go on YouTube or whatever, and the tutorial is like this perfect situation. So you have to kind of take that and then look at, what did the last guy or a bunch of people who were in this house do to the situation to make it weird or, jerry-rigged or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you have to kind of figure it out. So there is that combination of there is material out there that you can just go and find, how to do stuff. But then there's a lot of just, being resourceful and problem solving, thinking through things, getting someone else to look at it with you and figure out how to do it,
Yeah. One thing that I've really appreciated about the way you restored it is you really tried to keep the initial integrity of the house, the character, and the things that you have updated. You've updated in a way that it looked like it could have been original. So,
Oh, thank you.
That's what
yeah,
we're going for.
you've
That's what
done a
we're trying
great
to do.
job.
I always think of Emma and Gladys. They were the two first mamas to love this house for over 50 years each. And I kind of have them on my shoulder, like, what would Emma do? What would Gladys do? So Emma was here from 1878 until her death in 1946. And then the house, I guess, they were trying to figure out which child to go through and all that, and ended up selling it to the Howard family. And Gladys Howard was here from 1949 until the 1980s when she was moved to a nursing home, I believe. So those two women were, so influential. A farmer's wife is so integral to a farm's success. They work just as hard as the farmer. So when I guess designing, I'm not sure what it's called, what I do to the house, but
It's
just
still
trying
designing.
to decide what things go where and how the look is going to be. I always am keeping those two eras. So like the late 1900s to the early 1940s maybe, is kind of where I try to keep it style-wise. And I feel like, okay, so like trends when you're designing your home, if you're a historic homeowner, I feel like I always want to say to everybody, trends come and go, but staying true to the soul of your house is classic. So, if you're following every passing trend with things that are more permanent, you're going to regret that and you're going to have to pay to get that redone. So, like in the more permanent things, it's important to stay true to the soul of your home. What is the story of your home? What's the architectural style of your home? Stay true to those things, and it will just feel right and it will just look right. A lot of the reason why people like how our house looks is because I didn't try to follow all of the passing trends that are going on. Maybe like in some things, like I think it's great if you have a favorite color or a favorite fabric, like a trendy pattern in fabric. That's a great way to kind of put your own personality into a space. But, or even a wall color is fine. But like the more permanent things and the more big style type things that you're doing to your home, if you're straying from the story of your house, you're going to feel like something's not right. And it's probably because you didn't stay true to that soul of your house. I don't think that necessarily applies to a newer house. I don't know how I would.
Yeah, we're not that concerned what people do with the houses after 1945.
But when you see like someone buy an old home and then they just completely gut it and make it modern, it doesn't make sense. Like, why did you buy an old house? Like, that's the whole reason
Yeah.
that your house is special, is
Yeah.
because of, its chopped up layout.
I mean,
and
I know why they do it. They do it because it's easier.
Oh,
It's easier to just gut it and then throw, simple sheetrock and whatever flooring, is in budget back down, and to put smaller, inexpensive moldings around the windows and everything. Taking the time to take what's already there, set it aside, while you're doing whatever needs to be addressed underneath, and then putting it back is
that's
it's
true.
more it takes more time and
Yeah,
more effort.
we took up each individual floorboard and we had to be super careful not to break the tongue and the groove. And I have a lot of friends who have historic homes and they're like, well, it's very drafty because they didn't really do subfloors. Your hardwood floors would usually be the subfloor. And so what people tend to do when the floor is drafty is they just put modern flooring over it to deal with that.
Yeah, and then
But
use it
that
as a subfloor.
Yeah, and they're using the historic wood and the old growth lumber and the beautiful floors that are there with the story scratched into them. They're just covering them up because it's easier. And I get that. Who wants to live in a house that's like half gutted for for years like us? But you have to kind of think, okay, well, what is the true story of this house? What makes this house special? What makes it beautiful? What makes her her? Like, I don't know how to explain it. When I see people just covering their floors to deal with the draft, I want to share on Instagram and my blog, like, no, this is gonna it's gonna be harder, but you can save money actually because you're not buying any flooring. Carefully pull up each board, then just lay plywood down, create your subfloor, and then put your original beautiful floors down. That is going to take double, if not triple, the length of time it would be to just go to Home Depot and buy a bunch of laminate flooring and putting over top. But you cannot purchase story. You can't purchase story. That is something that takes love, life, things happening to create, and your floors belong in your house. They're part of your house's story. I love that I'm literally walking in the footsteps of those farming families that struggled to survive here, and I can sometimes see little scratches in the floor, and I'm like, oh, I wonder, did a little boy drop his toy, or I can see dips in the floor. Oh, did the mommy always stand here? There's like grooves in the stairs where people always walked. To me, that's what makes an old house special.
Yeah. Yeah. And all the while, through all this renovation, you've managed to keep it decorated and designed so beautifully. And you mentioned that you're both artists, but I feel like
Yeah.
your house really is a work of art. It's beautiful.
Thank you. That was my coping mechanism, I think. I would have like 90% of my house would be like an absolute disaster, and we would a couple years we were living in like one room at a time as we would go around, and I would just like make it pretty. Okay, I have one pretty, like, that was my oasis, I guess, in the chaos.
Yeah, while we were working on this part of the house, what's now the dining room, we had the upstairs, and then we had the dining room,
And that was
and
it.
everything else was gutted downstairs. And so it was weird. You like went down the stairs and then into the dining room and then out the front door, and everything else was was just down to the studs, basically.
Yeah. So we had a fridge in the dining room, a couch in the dining room,
Yeah,
a dresser.
yeah.
It was crazy, but I tried to make all along the way. I did try to make things cute, and that's just how I saved my sanity, I think. was that if I had a little oasis or a little island of pretty, I could just go there and be like, oh, okay.
Usually I would still be working on the room and she'd already be like decorating it and like putting stuff in. I'm like, wait, we're not done.
That's funny. So, have you uncovered like any good surprises on the way?
I wish, like a lot of people ask us, did you find any old, money or really cool treasures? This house, after the two major families lived here, it was bought up by a big farmer, and he had renters in here for a long time, and the different renters, I think, got everything out of the attic. There's a little tiny attic. It's very tiny. And
I don't know if there was ever anything in the attic.
I don't know. We haven't found anything exciting. I find almost on a daily basis, I do find little bits of pottery or broken glass,
Yeah,
or
we have dozens of chickens, and so they're kind of constantly excavating the yard. They're foraging and they kick up the dirt, and then some little bit of something broken will be there.
we haven't found anything of like
To be
value.
honest, yeah, most of the things, most of the treasures were in plain sight.
Hidden in plain sight.
Hidden in plain sight. I
Yeah.
mean, we didn't know for sure that all of the floors in the downstairs were still here.
Because of the carpet, yeah.
We moved in and we just kind of went nuts. We came in, we just started ripping stuff up. Ripping the floor up, pulling the carpet, and seeing those floors underneath and all that.
That was exciting.
Yeah.
But we pretty much assumed they were there. And then all the windows had a layer of plastic. It almost looked like plastic wrap, like saran wrap maybe, stapled every couple inches all the way around every single window.
Yeah.
Then they had blinds over that. Then they had lace curtains over that, like shears, and then they had regular curtains over that.
There's weird stuff, like they plugged... What did they do? They plugged the ceiling fan into the plug between the two over here, and then went up the wall, and then
stapled
to it, and
a
stapled
extension cord up the wall, and then had an extension cord plugged into a ceiling fan. That was the living room.
That was the living room. That was like the fancy room.
Wow.
So yeah.
Have we found anything cool? We considered that cool. That was pretty cool and unique to have a extension cord stapled to the wall. But nothing of value.
There was one time on the back porch. Remember, we took off some of the vinyl and we found out that there was this really cool detailing.
Oh, the corbels?
Yeah, the corbels on the back porch. And they were just
we didn't
hidden
know they
underneath
were there.
it.
Yeah.
And then there was some of the detailing around the top of the farmhouse that we didn't know that was there.
Oh yeah, there's crown molding on the exterior of our house.
There's crown molding.
That's pretty.
On the exterior.
But nothing like, like the Declaration of Independence or anything.
there was what was it? Is it called a tube bottom plow? That was here, but the owner sold it before we got here. There are interesting things, like you go out in the field and there'll be a piece of
farm machinery that a tree grew around, and so it's just sitting there. We have multiple of those. I think one of them's in the goat pen. There's a lot of interesting stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
it's only cool to us, though. It's not really cool to others.
Yeah, I mean, there's not like this great stash in the barn of like all these priceless antiques or anything like that, unfortunately.
Yeah. Was there ever a point where you got so far in and you're like, did you think about quitting? Like, this is not worth it? Or did you always know, like, if we keep going, this is going to be worth it?
Definitely there was a lot of discouragement at times. A lot of times I was just tired of it, tired of the process. But honestly, we didn't really have anything else to do, because the thing was, the way that we jumped into it, as far as resale, it was worth more when we got here than it was at that point. Even though we've been doing things to improve it,
We
it
couldn't have
it
sold
was
it in the
still in that
condition.
middle section, that middle stage, where it's getting better, but nobody's going to want to buy it the way it is right now.
Yeah.
And so we knew that there was only one
We couldn't quit.
direction to
Yeah.
go,
Yeah.
was forward.
I will say I've had over the years a couple like mommy meltdowns, I would call them, or like mommy temper tantrums, maybe.
Yeah.
Like where the 2-year-old cries and like kicks and screams. Not quite that ugly, but where I just, it took us 4 years to finish the kitchen. We've done so much of it DIY, and we do it in our spare time on a tight budget of a warehouse worker. And it's just taking so long. And if you're somebody who has seen like HGTV, where the whole thing's done in 45 minutes, or you're just online and you're seeing all your friends have, a kitchen and a bathroom, you start, having this self-pity, and I remember one time sitting in our one clean, nice room downstairs. The whole entire downstairs of the house was gutted to deal with that termite problem. And I'm sitting in the dining room, and I've got a newborn and a toddler, and I'm just crying because we're like squished, and they're trying to play, and we've got a fridge and a couch, and like it was just so. And I'm having this pity party, and then I had like this vision of a mommy my age with little children in a developing country, and she was sitting on her dirt floor of her one-room hut cooking, and she was singing, and I'm just thinking, like, I don't know where this picture is. I'm very imaginative because I'm an artist, so I'm always like picturing things, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm so blessed. Why am I feeling like this? I have so much. My children have a clean, dry, warm place to sleep. We have food, we have a roof, we have clothes. It's not magazine pretty right now, but I have no reason to cry. And that's happened to me multiple times over the years. Is that realization that if I'm on social media too much, or if I'm watching Chip and Joanna too much, or getting into the magazines and at grocery stores or something too much, you can quickly forget that nothing worth doing is easy, and it's a process, and there are so many people living with less that are living happily. Even the original family that lived here on Bryarton Farm, so like the 1-story portion of the house that we're working on, that was the original claim shanty for this farmhouse. It's what, 9 by 21?
9.5 by 20.
9.5 by 20.
Wow.
Their entire family lived in that. That was their house from 1878 until 1893. And they had 4 to 5 children, depending on, they did lose a baby at one point. And they're just all crammed in that little house.
Yeah.
And if they could do it, that pioneer spirit, if they could do it, and persevere, like, who am I to, be pouting that I don't have a kitchen, or I don't have a bedroom, or I don't have a bathroom finished and pretty. So that's something that our house has taught us over and over again. It taught us to be grateful, taught us to work hard, taught us what's important, taught us what is beautiful really mean, like that authentic, that we really appreciate authenticity more than ever before. And so if we had, given up or wanted or quit, we wouldn't have learned all those things, and we wouldn't have these greater appreciations for these things that we didn't even really notice, I don't think, back when we were newlyweds, new to the journey, I guess.
That's so good. So you named it Bryarton Farm.
Yeah.
Where did you get the name from?
Well, there's so many farms out there, and they all have really cute names. There's like Blueberry Farm and Treetop Farm and all these cute little names. And it seemed like all the cute names were taken, and we felt like Floyd Farm was really lame. Because our last name is Floyd. And like, Floyd Farm, so we were just kind of thinking about names, and we decided to kind of, instead of trying to put together cute words that already exist, we decided to make up our own word. And so Briar kind of stands for the wild, untamed prairie, which is, when we bought this place, it was like a big briar patch. It was just like a tangled mess. There was trash everywhere. Nobody had lived here at least in a year. So nothing was mowed.
A lot of things were overgrown. We spent years just getting rid of trash that was on the property. There was a couch in the field that was
with a beehive in it.
The beehive in it.
That was an adventure. And so Briar we kind of decided the first part of the word stands for kind of the wild, untamed farm that it was. And then art, the A-R-T is at the middle of the word. Like art is at the heart of what we do. We're artists, and we believe the farm is kind of like our big canvas.
Yeah.
And this is like our piece of artwork that we're doing as a family. We're all contributing to this piece of artwork together. And it's also our giant art studio, essentially, since I illustrate books here, and Michael does a lot of artsy things as well here. And then ton at the end, that was kind of the funny part. Like, there's a ton of work to do, and it seems like there will always be a ton of work to do. And so you put that all together, and it's Bryarton. And it just seemed kind of like summed up, just kind of in the moment, kind of all the things we were thinking about and doing and what we cared about. And it was kind of cute and funny and had like a secret message for us. And it was way better than Floyd Farm, so that's what we went with.
So you did mention that you're artists. Tell us a little bit more about that and what you guys do as far as art goes.
You want to go? Or you?
Good start.
I don't want to be the one that is always talking over him. I have a tendency to talk a lot. So I'm like, okay, I need to consciously do you like to say anything? Otherwise I won't let him talk at all.
I guess the broad answer to that is that we have all kinds of different things, that we are artistic in the way that we approach them. So even when we're doing the woodworking and the carpentry, we kind of look at it
from an
more
artist.
as artists than just from getting it done standpoint.
Yeah.
But I've enjoyed photography for many years. Since moving here, I've really gotten into creating videos. I'm a calligrapher and do some graphic design, things like that. So just in woodworking, like I just said. So just kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like I need to focus on one thing, but it's fun to go from one to the other and to see how they interact with each other. How do things you learn from one help you doing another.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're both very right-brained, I guess you would say, and that's a blessing and a curse, because you do have that kind of scatterbrain, like, ooh, look, that's pretty, I'll work on that. Oh, look over there. So we do struggle to focus because we have so many passions and interests, and they're all art-related, I feel like, or at least could be kind of lumped in there with an art. And I'm mainly a painter, so I love to illustrate children's books. That's what I do kind of as like a side job at night when my kids are asleep. But I feel like my house is also my canvas, and I love to decorate. I love homemaking, and So, I'm also like hand painting the walls instead of doing wallpaper, and like hand painting designs above doorways randomly, and
All kinds of crafty stuff.
yeah, I make things and stuff. So it's such an inspiring place that it kind of brings it out of us too. I've noticed just being here in this peaceful place, there's no traffic, there's no pollution or, honking or noise, or, you're just able to really just, your mind kind of opens up. And we don't have a TV either. So that really helps us to have extra hours in our day, but also helps us to grow and stretch our creative muscles. We're not, being entertained necessarily. I mean, we do have some technology. We're not Amish, but
Yeah, I mean, we
we've
have internet
noticed that
connection.
there's a lot of ways that this place has brought out even new art forms that we didn't know we loved, or that we didn't
Oh,
know were things we were interested in. Um, so when I'm painting or when I'm drawing or whatever I'm doing, this place tends to kind of wiggle its way in to whatever I'm doing.
I love it so much. That's awesome. And I think that's typical of creatives to just always have all the things going on in your mind going in all the different directions. You also have 3 beautiful girls that you're raising on the
Yes.
farm. Do they love it
Yeah.
there?
They do. I hope they truly appreciate it. Um, and I think they do. It's going to be interesting to see when they grow up. I hope one of them will take over the place and keep it going, keep it alive, keep it from being an abandoned farmhouse. Oh my goodness, that would be my nightmare. But they are just enjoying being wild, carefree country girls. I can't hardly get them to wear shoes. They just love running around outside and playing with all their animals. And um, my oldest is an artist as well. She loves to draw and paint. We'll see what the two younger girls will end up being passionate about. They're still mostly into baby dolls and things like that, but they love it here. And I know that this is kind of the reason why we even started this, though. It's not just for us. I always have to go back and remember, like, when it's a hard moment, like we find out that something's rotten, or we need to fix another thing, and there goes our budget again. I just always have to go back to, well, why did we say yes to this? Why did we move here? And it's for them. It's almost our love letter to them. And so yeah, I hope they enjoy and appreciate that. They're so cute.
That's beautiful. Do you want to talk about adoption?
Sure. Our youngest is adopted. Our two oldest are biological. And then our youngest we brought home in 2021 during the pandemic from India. And she is just such a blessing. She's just a little treasure. We named her Ellie Pearl, and Pearl is a rare and precious treasure, So she's our little Pearl, and she's completely blind, and
mm.
we've had, I think initially a lot of people were like, why are two artists adopting a little girl who can't see? And it's really neat because that didn't really ever occur to us really as being an issue, because art is not necessarily just something you can see, it's also something you can feel, and it's just, art is everywhere, and it's absorbed in all different ways, like dance and music. And
Yeah, I mean, it's really fascinating to us, because I mean, all sighted people, use their sight so much, and it's such a dominant sense. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's kind of fascinating to really think about what it would be like not to have that sense. And what you kind of notice is that, your sight and your ability to see things makes it so you don't notice a lot of things that are going on around you that you would notice
She's
if you
taught us a
worked,
lot.
if your eyes were closed,
I think
if
she's
you couldn't see.
deepened our appreciation for life, and she's deepened our understanding and also our love for others and things like that. She's taught us so much, and it's funny because we kind of say that she's opened our eyes, and it's, it's just that ironic thing that adopting a little girl who can't see, how such a big impact that she's had on us. And we share, a lot on Instagram because, and on our blog, because we want to show the beauty of blindness. It's not something to be scared of. It's not, contagious or, or even gross or sad. It's not even sad. It's just a different way of seeing. And so, yeah, we just love sharing this with her, the farm with her. She has just changed in 1 year. She just hit her 1 year home anniversary was March 15th.
Just a week or two ago.
So it's been
recent.
amazing to go back. We just published the video of her homecoming, or like the day we got custody, on our blog. And we love to go back and watch those videos and just see how far she's come.
Yeah, it really has been amazing. When we took custody of her, she could only stand holding on to something for a very short time. She just had very little stamina or anything like that, and
no core body strength or anything from just being in a crib all the time and poor nutrition and just not enough interaction.
Then several months later, it was her birthday, and she'd been home quite a bit less than a year at that point, and 9 months or so. And
by her birthday, yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to take a picture of her in the living room, and Sarah was standing a little ways to the side, and she was like, "Ellie, come here. Ellie, come here." She was standing by herself at that point. She had done that quite a bit. And Sarah, I kept trying to get her to walk towards her. And this one day,
she took her first step on her third birthday, right in front of our piano. And it was just it was a miracle. We didn't know when she would walk. Because, it was a lack of muscle tone, lack of nutrition, but it was also the fear of falling. Everybody has that natural fear of getting hurt.
Yeah, and she just...
On her birthday.
And it was this combination of her doing it even though she was scared, and also how much she had bonded to Sarah, as her mama, that she wanted it to be with her mama that bad that she was willing to, walk across the room. And she didn't just take 1 or 2 steps, kind of, and almost fall. She went probably a good 10 feet, and it was such a beautiful moment.
On her third birthday, yeah, that was probably the most special thing that's happened in this house, I'd say. And so, this house has become more than just a project. It's like the place where we get to witness miracles, and the place where love conquers all. And it's just, I hope that everybody can. I don't want to romanticize buying an old house. I don't want to over romanticize, adoption or any of these things, because life is hard, and all these things that we're talking about, sometimes when you listen to a podcast, you're just like, wow, that's nice for them, but that couldn't happen to me. I always want to encourage people, we're nobody special. We're just like a regular, just regular mommy and daddy, and it's amazing what can happen if you just trust God and let Him take control of the situation. We had so many faith journeys and one of them was buying this house when we didn't have a job set up, when we didn't know what would happen, and another was finding out that this house was barely standing and having to save it quickly. And then I think another was adopting Ellie. And we'd like to fill this house with more children. We can't adopt again until we finish our bedroom. So that's one reason why we want to finish that and get that rolling. You know, you have home studies, and they're not too fond of gutted rooms. Like, and what are you doing in here? So you could be praying for us that eventually happens. It's been almost 8 years now. So I think we're about due for a bedroom. Don't you think, Daddy?
Yeah.
We're currently sleeping on the floor in Ellie's room. It's a little tiny nursery, and we have a full-size bed. And
We're sleeping on a mattress on the floor.
It still touches the crib on one side and the wall on the other.
Yeah.
So it's cozy.
Yeah.
But it's all been worth it.
Yeah, that's so good. Why is it important that we preserve our American farms for future generations?
That's a good question. I love that question. I think for me it's knowing where you came from. Like, history is a mess. It's messy. It's not, again, I don't want to romanticize history. There was a lot of bad things. There's a lot of good things and a lot of powerful stories that I think are important to preserve. And one of those stories is immigrants, like the people who built this house, and just all they went through to give a better life to their children, which I guess is what we were doing too, in a way, in a modern way. And so, you know, these houses are a representation of those stories, but they're also a representation of craftsmanship that is gone forever. Like, you cannot, you know, old growth lumber and hand-hewn wood and handmade square nails and hand-blown glass in your windows, and, you know, all these things that were done by hand before machinery and before, you know, power tools. These things, you can't really, the quality of craftsmanship and those details, just once they're gone, they're gone. And those stories are lost too, because houses represent people and lives and stories lived. And so I feel like wherever you are, you may not even live in the U.S., wherever you are, it's important to preserve the story of wherever you are. And so, you know.
We love, like, this house in particular. You know, this wasn't the home of some famous
Politician.
statesman or,
Yeah.
you know, big business person or some famous artist or anything like that. It was a moderately successful farmer.
Yeah.
And so by preserving this house and showing something closer to what it would have looked like over 100 years ago, you know, it allows us, and through sharing it with other people online and in other places, gives you a glimpse into the past, not just of this family, but of, you know, thousands of families from that time.
Yeah.
And
The humble farmer's story matters. I mean, they are the backbone of any country, is the humble farmers. And it tends to be that, you know, like the actors and the poets and the politicians, those people, their homes are preserved. But it's the humble farmers whose story is often forgotten. And they matter too, and their stories are just as important. They're just, you know, they're not as appreciated as much for some reason.
Yeah, and we also feel that the houses in town, like where we came from last, there was a historic district, and all the houses in that area, there were laws and things that you could do this and you couldn't do that, they couldn't be torn down, and all those things. But generally in the country,
There's
the
no law.
good and the bad of being in the country is that there's so much less of that kind of regulation. It's good because when you move out here, you can a lot in our area. I know that in other areas it's not so much, but there's just not a lot of people coming out checking on your work and what you're doing and stuff. But kind of the downside to that is that combining that with the fact that people often don't move a lot, and a lot of these homes are on farmland that is really only valued as farmland. So a lot of these houses, they're in a family and they just get handed down to the next generation, or somebody lives there for decades and decades and decades, and a lot of the maintenance isn't kept up with, or the person who bought it only cares about the land. Just for all these reasons, the farmhouses and barns and old barns in our country, a lot of them are just falling into decay. And there's kind of a tipping point once they get so far gone that that the difficulty of getting them restored at that point, is so great that there's just not a lot of people who are going to take that time and that effort and expense to go through. So we just are trying to open people's eyes to what's out there. Hopefully, we can find more ways to get people who really care about these houses into them and restoring them in a thoughtful way.
Yeah.
Not just keeping them keeping them lived in and intact, but really
Appreciating them for who they are.
appreciating
Yeah.
them for what they are, and for keeping what makes them so special, still there.
Alive, yeah.
Yeah.
When I kind of have this fear in the back of my head that someday my girls will only be able to read about, like they'll only be able to read about old farmhouses in Anne of Green Gables or Little House on the Prairie or Sarah Plain and Tall. They'll be able to read these books, but they will have no actual living, breathing representation of what that is. What does a historic farm look like? Because we're losing them at such a rapid rate. The original agricultural architecture of any country is so important to preserve because that is the backbone of that country. And if we can only read about it, then we might not be getting the full picture, So we need to have, and not just museums, but houses that people are really still living in to show that value there, that they're not just museum pieces. They can still be used and loved and lived in well. I think that's important.
So good. Well, guys, you're really inspiring a lot of people by what you've done, and I so appreciate our conversation. How do we follow along with everything you have going on and the updates on the house and life and all of that?
Sure. Well, we have a blog, BryartonFarm.com. Because we do this more just out of passion right now, while our kids are little. We don't post on there really regularly, but you can see like before and afters. You can see like a before tour what it looked like when we bought it, and what it looks like now. That's a great resource for people. And then I do post nearly every day on Instagram, which Bryarton Farm on Instagram. And that's where I can share kind of the day-to-day stuff. That's really quick and easy for me as a mom to just kind of post stuff on there. I do share my art on there, and then also what we're doing with the house and just all the little things we're accomplishing. We really appreciate you letting us talk your ear off with all this.
I love it. No, I really love it. It's great
so
to know
sweet.
you guys. So,
Oh,
all right.
thank
Well, we
you.
will link to all of that in the show notes. And
Okay.
Sara also sells her art on her website. It's beautiful. So you should go check
Yeah.
that
Oh,
out too.
thank you.
But, yeah. But guys, thanks for being on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Sure. We loved it.
Thanks for having us.
You were
Yeah.
a great host.
Oh, thank you. Well, this is such an important story in so many ways, and I admire Michael and Sara for honoring the history of their home and their intentionality behind preserving the original detail and architecture of the time period, not to mention their perseverance through this journey. Huge thanks to Michael and Sara for being on the podcast, and thanks to you for tuning in. Have a great day, everybody.